let's look at an application of inequalities. And really, anytime a problem indicates something like you want to have something to be at least this amount or at most or more than or less than, any word problem with those sorts of words usually implies that there's some sort of inequality, and often we can write an inequality to try to figure out the answer. So let's just check out a sample problem. Let's say that you have scored an 82%, an 88%, and a 92% on your first 3 history tests, and you want to know, well, what do I need to get on that 4th test to get an A in the class? And let's just say that's your only grade components and that's it. So what score on that 4th test do I need to get it done? So we could write that as an inequality by saying, well, first of all, how do I find an average? Well, I would, in general, write, assuming that all the tests are weighted the same, which depending on your history class might not actually be the case. But let's say, for an average in general, is what we want to do is add up all of the things and divide by how many there were. So we clearly had 3 tests already, and then there's a 4th test that we need to take. So we could write that as, well, I got an 82, an 88, a 92, and then I'm going to add up my 4th score and divide by 4, which would give me the average of all 4 of my tests. Now, I haven't taken that 4th test yet, which is why I'm leaving it as X. It is an unknown. That's again what I'm trying to figure out, is what's the score that I need on that last test. And if I set it greater than or equal to 90, what this will do is tell me, okay, because this is my average over here. What I want is my average to be at least 90%, right? Because it says it needs to be at least 90, and that's how I can write it. Now, if you're wondering, well, these are percentages, why did I not change them to decimals? I could have actually changed these all to decimals as well as the 90%, but that wouldn't have made any difference because both sides would have decimals. And I could have just multiplied by 100 to change them all to non-decimals anyways. Because, again, with inequalities, you're allowed to do the same thing to both sides. It will maintain the logical truthfulness of the original statement. Or I could divide both sides by 100, and what that would do is just change this to 0.82, 0.88, 0.92, 0.9, and then everything would be in decimal form. But again, it would be an equivalent inequality. But basically, here's my inequality. If I solve it, I could figure out what do I need to do. So what I could first start by doing is multiply through by 4, since that's divided by the whole thing. And another mention about fractions in equations is when this whole thing is divided by 4, there's technically, and usually we don't write a parentheses here, but really there's technically a parentheses involved around that numerator of that fraction, because the way the fraction bar is written. And so this is implying that the whole thing is divided by 4. If I multiply by 4 on both sides, that will cancel division by 4 since the whole thing is multiplied through. Now, if that fraction was only under one of the components, it wouldn't work like this. But anyways, it will in this case. So what that would leave me with is 82 plus 88 plus 92 plus X must be greater than or equal to 360. So I could then solve for X by simply subtracting all of these to the other side. So that would be 360 minus 88 minus 82 minus 92. And that would leave me with X greater than or equal to 98. And so what that would tell me is that in order to get at least a 90% in the class, I need to get at least a 98% on that last exam. And that kind of makes sense here because it's like those 2nd and 3rd tests averaged out to a 90. So between the 1st and 4th, those also need to average out to a 90. And 82 and 98 balance each other out to make 90. Now, technically, it could have been possible, like let's say I got an answer like X is greater than 110. Sometimes it might be impossible to actually do what you want based on your prior scores. But in this case, 98 is still attainable. It's probably going to be hard, but it is possible. But sometimes there might be an answer that isn't possible depending on, well, 110, is that possible? Depends on the extra credit options. Anyways, or let's say you have senioritis and you only care about getting a 70 in the class instead. We could easily just change, the parameters. Let's say I only wanted to know what does it take to get a C. I could change that 90 to a 70 resolve it, and very easily change the parameters upon my problem.